ever wondered, can you communicate directly with spirit guides, teachers, or non-physical consciousness, or even our higher selves? What would they tell us? My name is Kevin Moore, and since 2015, I started to practice a form of communication which is termed channeling. I have been interviewing experts on my talk show to find out, does life continue after we die, and can we communicate with those that have crossed over? With each expert I spoke to, they all had different ideas. Is there knowledge from the past which could be shared with the present moment? So I thought, why not just speak to the non-physical world directly through channelers around the world? And that's what I set out to do. They Call Us Channelers will take the viewers on a journey into the phenomena known as channeling. And my main goal with this docuseries is to bring a new understanding and awareness to channeling by looking within ourselves and asking, is it truly possible that we can all use this innate ability?
Hi, my name's Gary O'Brien, and with my wife Mary, we channel a compassionate energy from Source called DZAR.
I'm Mary, and with my husband, we channel an energy called DZAR. And the purpose of the work that we do is to bring people back to a true knowing of who they really are.
Now, you've come all the way from Australia. All the way from Australia. You're touring the US a bit right now. Yeah, that's the plan. So I'm really grateful to have you guys on because what you do is so different, isn't it? There's something, because I've met a lot of couples that do the channeling together, but for me, this is everyone takes on different roles. Sometimes it's the man that's doing the channeling and the woman that's kind of doing the business side maybe, or driving it forward, which it needs that, right? Yeah. Or other times it's the wife doing it, and it's the husband that's just with the support here. So really honoured to have you both on. So how did this start for you then? What was the catalyst here in this?
It's always such a great question because it started completely by chance. We were in Colorado, in Crestone in Colorado, a tiny little place, 75 people I think live in this. The difference is even the plumber does Reiki, so it's a totally different type of vibe. And we were doing a course there called Psych K, and doing the advanced instructor course. And at the end of the course, Rob Williams, who's the creator of Psych K, what he said to us, or what he said to me was, I think you need to go and see this lady, and she's an energetic masseuse. I didn't really know what that was at the time, and I thought, okay, Sunday night, strange time to go, and because it was the end of the course, everyone was going down for a party. I wanted to be a part of the party, right? I didn't want to go and have a massage. Come on, we can go have a beer or something at this stage. I went and had this massage. Anyway, that was the beginning, I'm pretty much sure, of an incredible change that changed our lives completely. And it was quite an extraordinary massage. I had my first understanding, my first expression of past life experiences. There were 3. I'd never done that before. We had, after the massage, I shook for 3 hours. There were, when she was in the room, she was working on my head, somebody was at my feet, and then she was on my left side, someone was rocking me from the right side. It was pretty weird. And I should have got off the table and just ran like a cat out of the room, but I didn't. I stayed there. And the next thing was, at the end of the massage, she said, we've taken you to the next level of consciousness. I thought, what does that mean? I was crying. I'm not a crier. I was bawling my eyes out. And she said, you're going to lose so many friends because they're not going to understand you. I did. We did. I was crying like this. It was extraordinary. And I drove down to the restaurant where Mary was on the wrong side of the road, or right side for America, and burst into the restaurant, still crying. And that happened for 3 hours.
And that was really the first, in some ways, the first contact we had, that we didn't know we didn't know it was first contact. It was 12 months before anything really changed, and it was very serendipitous. I'd gone to a marketing event and Gary came along later, and there was a young couple there teaching a particular type of marketing. And at the end, when we were speaking to them, everyone else was talking about return on investment and how to optimize your marketing dollar. And we were talking to them about using energy to connect and to communicate with. So from there, they taught us a process of channeled guided writing. And I took to it like a duck to water. I was getting reams of fascinating information. I'd go through the process to connect in, and then I was just writing. And Gary got 6 words. So he wasn't a happy camper.
No. I was a bit of a spiritual brick, as I described myself. I didn't believe in this stuff. It wasn't something I was looking for. Mary had the spiritual books. I had the thinking, the left brain, the logical side of things, and then they chose me.
And so the first conversation we had in DZAR, and the way that we communicate with them now, was when Gary was getting so frustrated. I suggested that instead of him trying to connect in and then open his eyes and write, that he just say whatever he was getting, and I would write it until he was comfortable, and then I'd give him back his book. And we were sitting on our back porch, and his eyes closed and his head dropped, and when his head came up and he began to speak, it was clearly no longer Gary. I don't know where my husband had gone, but Elvis had left the building, as we said.
Completely.
And that was our first conversation with DZAR. And that lasted for an hour. I asked them who they were, what they wanted to share with us. They said, we've never been in human form. We're a pure energy of creation. We're source energy, and we want you to share a message because it's time for humanity to come back to that remembering of who you truly are, and that you're connected to everybody and everything, to each other, to nature. You need to start to live and collaborate in that way.
For you both then, individually, were there any sort of spiritual experiences that you had that were in your childhood that you now look back and you say, yes, I know what that part was now of me, that was wanting to come through, but I kind of pushed it back?
For me, ever since I was little, I'd known there was energy and connecting to be done. I'd always felt it. And I remember as a little girl lying in bed. I was brought up Catholic, and I used to lie in bed and ask the Holy Family to come and talk to me. You know, I knew they were there, but I just wasn't able to connect. Well, at least not in my thinking self. Energetically, I know I was. So for me, I'd always had that knowing and that desire to connect, though I never expected to be doing channeling. You know, that was a weird and wacky path. So over my life, I'd pursued different kind of spiritual paths, and I spent some time in an ashram in India. So I was always seeking that larger part of me, while at the same time doing the things of, you know, getting married, having a job and a career. There was always that other part I was wanting to connect and bring into what it was to live and to be a human.
I was completely the opposite. The only thing I knew that I didn't fit in, I didn't even fit in with my own family, was my thought. And so my life was completely hedonistic. I just wanted to enjoy my life, play and have fun, which I did. I taught scuba diving and played all around the world like that. It was really good. And do you know, just the other day, it was only a couple of weeks ago, DZAR, the energy we channeled, they said to us, we want you to go back and have a look at these specific moments in your life that you feel have shaped you. And I thought, oh yeah, come on, I've done that before. I did. Holy cow. do you ever get the feeling that life has been there all along guiding you? That even though you feel, even though I felt that I was on the outside, I didn't quite fit in, I wasn't really clever at school, there was something that kept taking me. So it was extraordinary when I look back at that. And each piece, whether it was an activity, a sporting activity like scuba diving, because I couldn't swim, so why would you scuba dive, right? But then that led me to teach, because then I became an instructor. And then the other courses, then I thought, how can I alleviate fear in others so simply and easily underwater? We can pat sharks and play, no big deal. And it just led me. And when ZAR asked me that, and then I saw the pieces fall together, I thought, wow, oh, there it is. It was a big thing to feel that I wasn't alone, but I was actually a part of something. Ooh, don't know where that came from. Yeah, it was really huge. It was a big piece.
And I think what's really lovely about that is, and we find this in all the people we work with, and you would have found it too, Kevin, that everybody knows that there's something more, that they are something more. And when we have that chance to connect in with it, it's powerfully beautiful. And it's not sad, they're not tears of sadness, it's that recognition, it's that extraordinary sense of how huge we all are. And the joy is starting to live more as that.
Absolutely. No, so true, so true. So no one in the family had any gifts at all when you look back?
No, not at all.
Wow.
Not a one.
No.
So job-wise, career-wise, you were both living kind of normal careers? What was that, if you don't mind me asking?
No, I was a carpenter. I started off as a house painter, and then went into building and carpentry, and then into scuba diving, and then into the corporate arena, teaching outdoor activities and so on and so on. Yeah, completely out of the blue. I was just there to enjoy myself, really. I wasn't looking to change the world, wasn't looking for any huge answers. This was all about fun. Yeah. That changed.
But I worked in the IT industry for quite a while and started off in technical areas. I did an arts degree at university and did political science, and I always laugh because the first job I got was actually in computers, and I thought they thought it was computer science when they employed me. But I worked with technical, so installing networks, and then moved into training people into computers, and a lot of the training was with women who were returning to the workforce after having been out of it for a while. So there was a very strong confidence building, self-esteem part of it as well as the technical side.
That's very interesting that you've got that side to you, because again, you were more into the mystical, spiritual side a little bit. Yeah. Had you come across any channeled material before? A
little bit. I'd been reading Cryon for a little while, and really resonated with that message. We had a friend who did some channeling, and we'd experienced that. But I have to say it wasn't something I'd ever particularly been drawn to. And in fact, I was possibly a little bit sceptical and cynical about it. So while what we were doing, once we started working together, it was all around helping people to change and supporting a larger knowing, channeling just wasn't something that we were seeking at all. It really wasn't on the radar as that. For me, it was a source of occasionally good information, not something to do, really.
So you're both born in Australia?
Yeah.
Yeah. How did growing up and having your good part of your life in Australia affect the work that you're doing now? Did it at all?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think there's something about the Australian character and personality that's quite down to earth and cheeky, you know, kind of playful humour. We don't take things very seriously. It's, you know, it's our convict background, as you would know, Kevin. And so I think the ZAR's energy and the way we work with people has a lightness to it. And a lot of what we do is actually busting spiritual myths, you know, opening paradigms, helping people to see that. When we first started to channel, we had a friend who said to us, oh, well, now that you're channeling, you know, you won't be able to drink alcohol. You can't mix spirit with spirits. And we went, oh, really? Oh, I don't think so. So we'll regularly go out and have a martini, and we live a normal human physical life. And I think in some ways that there's an Australianness to that, of just down-to-earthness.
Do you think that helps in the teachings that you're doing?
Yes, there is definitely, ZAR has a fantastic humour about them. They have such an extraordinary connection of compassion with everyone, regardless of culture or religion or whatever. They never tell you what to do or how to do it. And many times we get that there are those people who would then say, you should be a little bit more serious. Well, you know, there's enough seriousness out there in the world. We don't really need any more seriousness. And the way ZAR works is that when you make life fun, in regards that it's not such a serious journey, more possibility shows up. And that's what I've seen with myself and with others that we work with. And I think being Australian has helped that. And in a way, maybe being someone who hasn't been brought up around such a dense spiritual energy, and church and all those sorts of things were not a part of my upbringing, I think it's allowed me a freedom because I have no expectations of what should be.
So when it came through, well, how have your family, on both your parts, received the work you're doing nowadays?
You go.
Well, my family love it. They are completely open to it. Mum's mum was English, and so that spiritual, so there was an openness to, you know, the Theosophical Society and all of that. So my family embraced ZAR completely. In fact, ZAR is like another member of the family for us. And my mum, who's still with us and completely on the ball at 91, she'll often say, now how's ZAR? You know, it's like checking up on an old friend. So it was lovely to be embraced. You know, they embraced it. There was no weirdness from my side. Gary's family was a little different.
They are a little different. They didn't understand it all, and my mum, dear love she is, she when we wrote our first book, and I gave her the first book to read, and she said, that's interesting, dear. She said, I read the whole thing, I didn't quite understand it, but I think it feels like a little bit like yoga. And I went, yeah, that's pretty close. That's good.
Kind of her only reference point
okay,
for
Ma,
it.
you know, that's all right. I'll go with that. Yeah. They didn't have any idea what we did, how we did it. It was a little bit too weird for them.
And still is.
And still is, yes. It is, yeah. Yes, they've not met ZAR or had a conversation or really any
other
interest.
Than Monique, your daughter.
My daughter, she's totally fine.
Yeah.
She loves it, and she got busted once by ZAR. So you know, she's going, it's not Dad.
She was a bit. She thought it was weird too. You know, suddenly Dad, who's normal, suddenly is doing this very odd thing. And she'd had a couple of conversations with ZAR. She's 30 now, so she was only quite little, and she'd had a conversation, and ZAR had given her a meditation to listen to as part of the, you know, homework we talk about. And she took it home, and we chatted to her, and I'd say, how's it going? She'd go, oh, great, you know, yeah, I've been listening to it. And next conversation with ZAR, almost at the start, ZAR said, so you know, young one, just putting it under your pillow isn't going to work. And she looked across at me. I was like, oh, I've been sprung. And I looked at her confused. And afterwards she said, I kept meaning to listen to it, but I just never got around to it. And for her, she was just saying the other day when we saw her, that was so powerful because that ZAR knew something that we didn't. And so she knew then that there was something else going on. It wasn't just Dad pretending to to be or do something different.
Yeah.
So when ZAR came through, is this a collective group, or how does it work? What is ZAR?
We refer to them as a they. They're just an energy. They are the energy of all that is of creation. They've never been in human form. People will often ask if they're from a particular star system or if they're an archangel energy, but they're not. They are all that is. They are compassion. So we refer to the energy as they because it's neither male nor female, so we can't use he or she. And to call it an it just feels a little bit small. It's an expansive energy. So their purpose is they refer to themselves as the energy of the messenger. They gave us the name in that first conversation. I said, so what do I call you? And they said, our name is ZAR. When I asked how do you spell that, they gave the spelling DZAR or DZAR. And afterwards, when I went inside, I immediately Googled because I thought, oh, maybe it's information that's already coming through and we could find out more. There was no reference to it. But eventually I found the meaning of the word, and it's ancient Hebrew or ancient Aramaic, and it means helper. Which is so fascinating. And then a couple of years later, we were in Paris and we were doing a workshop in a little centre in Paris. And the lady who ran it is Jewish. And she said, so tell us about the name. And I told her that story and she said, I thought so. She said, come and read this. And she taught the Kabbalah. And she showed us a book that had the D, the Z and the R. There are no vowels in Hebrew. And each letter has a whole story and meaning behind it. And as we read each letter, we had goosebumps because it was like reading everything that ZAR talks about. So the frequency of the name carries the information as well.
Did you think then that maybe this entity, this group had come through before, through others?
Yeah, I did. And they haven't. And we've asked ZAR, are they talking to anybody else that we just haven't, come across yet? And they've said no. At this stage now, they are just speaking through us.
Had they spoken through anyone else in the past?
No. And no, but I suppose, Kevin, the thing is all of the channeled information comes from source, is my understanding of it. It all comes from that same essence. So they all are communicating from that same starting point, but just with a different focus or a different personality, so different humans can connect with them.
Yeah, it's almost like, isn't it? It's a different flavour of the soup.
Yes.
It's disguised in a way that, or packaged in a way that it's meant for the people that it's going to reach.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
But if I ask ZAR, which I may do you know of any of the other channelers? They may say no.
It's funny you ask that because we had a lady once and she'd been reading a lot of Cryon's work. And so she said to ZAR, so ZAR, do you know Cryon? And ZAR paused and they said, oh yes, young one, we often catch up around the water cooler. And they said, yes, we work in the same organisation. They said, we're more in personnel human resources, whereas Cryon's more in the technical department. And then someone's asked since then, and they asked about Abraham, and ZAR said, oh yes, well, Abraham's more in finance and treasury. So, it's a nice kind of analogy to get this sense of they do. Each of the channeled messages have a slightly different aspect that they focus on that people are drawn to at different points.
What is ZAR's purpose? Why is ZAR coming through? What are the ZAR's, I call the ZAR's there.
The ZAR.
Yeah. What are their main teachings?
Their main teachings are, we get a lot of people that ask, ZAR, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? And ZAR will say, quite simply, to be creation's reflection in the physical. A bit of a big ask. And at the same time, what it means is to accept this you that's here now, to have a deep sense of love for self first, and then to share this you that is here with your world. Not a selfless sharing, but a sharing that just comes from an uninhibited sense of self that wishes, I'm here, I want to share you with the world. And I feel that DZAR's energy is definitely compassionate. It's definitely big. It's like a big cuddly kitten. You know, it's really, really beautiful. And we get that energy and feeling and expression all the time. And there's Comet.
Hello. I know you've come to say hello, haven't you? Okay.
Another aspect of that, Kevin, is one of the a visual of that I think encapsulates the work that we do is the visual of the bridge. And on one side of the bridge is the physical human self, and on the other side is our energetic, our soul, our essence, whatever, so many words around that. And a lot of teachings are often about denying the physical and seeing the physical as a problem, as the impediment to be overcome, so that we can move here. All of our work is actually saying, no, that's actually not the approach. Our approach is to say you want to stand in the centre of the bridge and you bring these two aspects of you into a joyful collaboration. You embrace the wholeness of you, which is the physical you, the energetic you, the human, the spirit, all of that, here to recognise and live as that. So it's not an either-or journey. And when you start to use this as an understanding, then you can navigate through life. So in times when things are difficult, for me, I go, okay, so where am I in the moment on the bridge? And I always can tell that I've slipped more towards the physical self. I've lost sense of my connection to energy and guidance. And all I need to do is have that awareness of who I truly am, that I am both of these and also a rather large, fluffy white dog. So that there is a collaboration. So that bridge metaphor is really, I think, it encapsulates everything that we share with DZAR.
So what is the main teaching of the DZAR then, would you say?
I think it's sort of weird because I'm in DZAR's energy, and so I'll answer that question by remembering the feeling from DZAR's energy when I'm there talking to people or one-on-ones or whatever. Basically, people come in, and when they first come in to talk to DZAR, they're quite constricted, they're quite caged. And what happens after the conversation with DZAR is their expression of freedom. In an hour or 10 minutes or 5 minutes, there is suddenly possibility for them that they didn't know existed before. And it comes through via a frequency conversation and love and compassion, and it changes people where they don't have to think about it, they now know. That's it.
Thank you. And Mary?
For me, DZAR's teachings are summed up by a visual that we use, which is of a bridge. And the two sides of the bridge, and on one side of the bridge is our physical human self, and on the other side is our energetic, our spirit, our soul, essence, whatever the word may be. And all of the work that we do with DZAR is not to say this energetic side is really what we should be doing. This is spirituality. In fact, DZAR doesn't even like the term spirituality because it creates duality. All of the work we do is to say, this is all of us. We are both of these, and our journey is to remember and to bring them together and to live as a collaboration between our humanness being infused and guided and expanded by the knowing that we are energy as well. And when we live as that, then we tap into our own guidance, we tap into a greater flow, we step outside the restrictions and the stories that have held us back.
So that's not the denial of anything.
No, it's an allowing of all aspects of us. And in that allowing of us to be physical and human and to be enjoying the human journey, and also to recognise there's an energetic aspect of us to be enjoyed and embraced as well, then we open up to all sorts of other possibilities. We start to see things differently. We step out of old paradigms that say spirituality has to look this way, or being successful in life has to look that way, or we can create a world that's a reflection of a sameness. We can't expect to feel sameness with another person if we're denying the sameness of our energy and our physical. It all comes back to us loving ourselves and recognising the wholeness of us.
How does one achieve that though? So is it you have to know that you're a soul having a human experience? Is that part of the package?
It's recognising those two parts are always there, whether we see them or not, whether we want to acknowledge them or not. And for me, it always comes down to a moment-by-moment decision and choice to say, who am I choosing to know and accept and live myself as? Who do I want to be? Do I want to be just this physical Mary living and going through life? Or do I want to try to be just this energetic, spiritual person who can, meditate 10 hours a day? We tend not to encourage people to meditate, because meditation actually is something that people do that removes them from their day-to-day. They feel fabulous when they meditate, and what they often come back and say to us is, I feel great when I meditate, and then I go back to the real world. That's the duality. The goal is to be having that feeling of who we're accepting ourselves to be while we meditate, while we're doing the dishes, while we're in traffic. Always knowing that self is there. We need to just choose to shift our focus and feel it, even if in that moment, in terrible traffic, it's glimpsed and fleeting. Accepting and knowing it's there grows that until it becomes our natural way of being.
And how does that help you to deal with issues that are day to day then? Do you know what I mean? Whatever that may be that's testing you, in a sense.
Because they do happen.
Yeah. Well, you see, so how is reality manifested? And basically, you get brought into this world, you don't know who you are. And you have no conscious awareness of who you are. And so you then end up with this backup system of who you are told you are. And so that ends up creating your reality. And then I go back to my own awareness of that sense of always feeling a little bit different. And so teachers and everyone was telling me one thing about me, wasn't good enough, wasn't smart enough, blah, blah, blah. And something else in me said, hang on a minute, that doesn't fit, it doesn't feel right. But my reality was pretty much what people were saying. There is something inherent within all of us. When you begin to ask that first question of, there has to be something more to my life. That first question begins your journey. From that first question, you then start looking. And then it's, as ZAR says too, it's then what you allow and deny for yourself. And so if I had denied myself this energy coming through all these little signposts that were along my way, I'd still be back in the dark ages for me. And I know people like that. When you begin this journey, when you begin to accept something more for you, then things start to show up. And ZAR gave us an energy called the Circle of Three. And it's awareness, acceptance, and compassion. And I think when you recognize, like Mary was saying, when you're sitting in traffic and you get a glimpse of that, so there's an awareness, your thinking will say, deny, that's rubbish. No, it's the time where you become aware of what you've just experienced, you accept it as a part of you and who you are, and then you fill yourself with compassion. The compassion it will take you for the time that it will take you to either expand into that knowing completely or step by step.
Well, what about those who never look at that question of I'm more than my body, or there's more to this reality than just this human existence?
No, I don't think it needs to even go that far. I think when you stand there and look in the mirror and you just say, I think there's something more to me, something more than this life I'm currently experiencing. It has nothing to do
without labeling it.
Yeah.
I think there's a DZAR has talked about what they call the three beginnings. And the three beginnings are the three phases, if you like, that we all go through as part of our evolution of being human. And in the first beginning, they're people who never look in the mirror and say there's more. They just say, this is life, it's good or it's bad, I'm only here in the physical, and if things are bad, well, I guess I'm just stuck with it. You know, there's no sense of anything else to be, any other possibility. And we have all had first beginning lives, and some of us, you know, we have first beginning times even in this life, so it's not about how long you have to stay in it. But that's just really 3D physical, just really this side of the bridge, this human physical side of the bridge. After a while, then the second beginning is where we're predominantly living as our physical self. That's our dominant acceptance of reality. But there's another knowing, an inkling, an itch starts to become present, where there's a slight sense of, well, I'm more than just these experiences, but it's often very fleeting and it's maybe just a curiosity to explore. It's not enough to really make a shift, but it's the opening. It's the grain of sand in the shoe that often becomes more of an annoyance than a gift. Then by the time we move to the third beginning in a life, it's where we can't ignore or deny that energetic self. We just know that there's more than just the physical, and our desire is to expand and to incorporate that larger knowing. So there's no judgment about it. One's not better than the other. It's just a different phase of awareness that we're in. Even in that first beginning, Kevin, what's, you know, I think is really, because you often hear people talking about there's kind of a spiritual hierarchy. You know, all those people, they're so dense, they just, you know, they just don't get it. We would never say that, because even that person who has no sense of anything else in that first beginning, they're as spiritual as I am. They have a spirit, they have a soul, they have an essence. They're just not in the space of being aware of it at that moment. And it can change at any time.
And it's not for us to judge when that person's going to become awakened either, to that question of there must be something more.
Yeah. And often that awakening happens through some kind of a difficulty or a challenge in life. You know, it might be a health issue or relationships, or whatever it might be. It's that becomes the catalyst.
Well, what does DZAR say about, you know, the fact that some will never in this lifetime awaken? That's perfect as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because from energy's perspective, from source perspective, there's no time anyway. So DZAR will always say to all of us, they'll say, well, you know, don't take the pressure off. You know, you're not going to get it done in this lifetime, mostly, and that's fine. What does it matter? It only matters when we've identified with ourselves as this physical. That's when it feels like it has to be done in this life. When I pan back and recognise that the energy of me continues regardless, well, if it's in this life, great. If it's in the next life, great. My energy is always going to expand and evolve.
Yes, and there's so many people out there, isn't there, with different channelers, different self-help motivational speakers, all sorts of different people, you know, trying to help people to become their best selves. But would you say your teachings come to those who are a bit more on the spiritually advanced path? I'm only putting words in there, really, but
I suppose we wouldn't use to say spiritually advanced,
but
I think the people we tend to work with are people who have been on a journey, a spiritual, a personal journey for a period of time. They know that they are already these two parts of the bridge, but what they've never really been comfortable and able to do is to navigate, because they've been too focused on trying to just be spiritual.
So with the people that come to see you then, is there anything in common that they've got, that you've recognised, for people that are sort of attracted to DZAR's teachings?
I think the thing that is common for them, regardless of where in the world it is their wish to change. Sometimes that change is that they want to change someone else, and DZAR will always come back and work with them first, because that's how change happens regardless. I think that common thing is just that wish for themselves to make a difference. I want a different life, I want a different job, I want a different relationship, whatever it may be. There's just something I need to change, and I want to have a conversation. They do come in many, many times, and they will always want DZAR, tell me. Just tell me what I should do. Well, that trick's not going to work with DZAR, because DZAR will have a conversation with you, and they will lead you on an energetic journey. This is sort of how I feel it. And sometimes there's all this heat that is right there, and then the light goes on and their energy just cools, and then they get it, and now I know what to do. The common thing is change.
Okay, okay. And between you both as well, individually, what is channeling to you?
For me, channeling is communication. It's communication that we all do, and whether it's communication with another energy in a form of going into a trance to be able to access it, or if it's communication by staying conscious and hearing or feeling or just knowing something, or through writing, or being in nature and just being able to feel a connection with the trees. To me, all of that's channeling. It's an energetic communication that can take as many different forms as there possibly are personalities.
To me, channeling is connection. I think the most extraordinary thing I continually feel when I'm connecting with someone else is that feeling that they get when they have that conversation with DZAR, or when they have the conversation with us. There's a feeling of, I can breathe out, I can just relax, and I feel that it's the connection. I feel it's something. Connection is pretty much it for me. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. So when this happened for you, when the DZAR came through, when did you say to yourselves, right, I guess, the normal jobs are out, we can never go back to a normal, day's work again. I mean, that seems, to me, that seems like, wow, to make that leap as well.
You know what was really funny? When this first started, I thought of every job I could do around the house to not do DZAR. Because, you lose consciousness. I lost awareness. I still don't have a great memory of what happened. So I would disappear for an hour or more, and Mary would chat away. And so Mary was so keen. She says, come on, Gaz, let's get onto this. Can you bring DZAR in?
It's like I had a new bestie I wanted to keep talking to.
Yeah, that's right. I got to mow the lawn. I've got to put another extension on the house. I repaint the bathroom, anything to do this again. So I was keen not to do it. And then I think because what was interesting was when we were communicating, when we first started talking to DZAR, we were already running workshops and all around personal change, but particularly focused on the subconscious. So we had a platform that we were using. We were already working in that way, and we started to share what DZAR was sharing with us, not in that forum because that wouldn't have been appropriate, but with family and friends. And it was very apparent very quickly that changes were happening, big shifts were happening very quickly and easily. So we allowed a time of transition.
really. And we moved away from the work that we were doing, even though it was great. It was just such a clear knowing for both of us that what we wanted to do, what we were excited and inspired to do, was to share this message. And so we started creating workshops and doing one-on-ones and travelling.
Yeah, there was a deep knowing inside that this is it. There's nothing else now that I could. There's nothing else I want to do or could do. It's just a part of who we are now.
Yeah.
Are you surprised by that sometimes?
Yeah. Oh. When we get so many emails from people, and Mary also, you know, CCs me in, so I get to see them all, and I just go, wow, because in there is the feeling of the whole day or whatever it was, but I don't have the memory of it, and then I get this changed, that changed, la 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 la, so much happened for these people.
And it all happens without trauma and angst, and there's no catharsis. It's a path of joy.
Thank you, yeah, absolutely. When you were going under so deep, I mean, Cayce was a trance channeler, so would you say you're a trance channeler?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I still don't know a lot about them. But yeah, I would say so, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. How do you make yourself become a trance channeler? I mean, how does that work?
Again, Kevin, you know, when it first began, I thought I got to sit a certain way, I got to breathe a certain way, I have to wear certain things. And DZAR, being DZAR, they kept changing how I would dial in, so to speak. And so they wouldn't come in the same way that I did before. And they kept changing and changing and changing. And over the years, and their whole purpose was, Gary, just get out of the way. You just need to go to the happy place, go to the good place, and just chill.
But do you think you're missing out on any of the teachings when you do that?
Oh no, it's really interesting too. It's not, is it? Because there's so much information that comes in the frequency, in the feeling, that I'm going to say we. I do that trance channel, but Mary does the physical channel of DZAR's information, and we just share the energy of it together. It's just beautiful, and so I don't miss out about it. And when people have a conversation with me afterwards, I'll go, keep talking, I'll feel them, and then it goes boom. It just all flows back, and I go, oh, that was you. Oh, okay, no worries. Oh, off we go.
So then the memory of what some of the things that were said comes in.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Why do you think this information has to come through this way?
I think people tend to hear it differently. I sometimes wonder if it had been just human talking to human, if they would have understood it. It comes through this way because there are words that are said, but there is a frequency that just hits the spot, and it changes things from the inside. So you don't have to think your way through the conversation that we have with you, or that you have with DZAR, because they get in like liquid into the chalk, and it just begins to change you from the inside out.
Do you think this is an evolution of some form that, you know, we've got the mediums, they play a very important role.
Yes, yeah.
This is different. Do you ever, doing this full time, think, well, why is there's something more for us all to evolve to this point?
Yeah. Yes, and it's why the way that ZAR comes through with both of us is different, and yet it's the same message. So as you're saying, you know, Gary does the trance channel, whereas I stay conscious, and information that Gary is receiving and articulating that isn't being spoken, I can feel, and if there are pieces that are missing, I bring them in while still staying aware. And ZAR often will say the purpose for that is to show that this is how we should all be living. That's kind of in some ways the goal, to be as connected and to energy and communicating with energy while staying fully conscious at the same time.
So you could say that all answers lie within.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And ZAR will talk about energy reflecting energy. And when they talk about energy reflecting energy, what they're saying is that we connect with energies that are a match for our frequency. So when, in the early stages when we started doing this, a lot of people said, so why you? You know, why did ZAR choose you two? And it was a question we'd asked, naturally.
Yeah.
And they said, because we're a frequency match for them. We are their frequency in physical form. We bring that energy through. So therefore, there's no difference between them and us. We are the human version of that information. So we tap into a larger aspect of ourselves through this energy that we know of as ZAR to find our own answers.
And what if ZAR was some part of Gary that's some part of the brain that we've not discovered?
That'd be pretty neat. Because, you know, it's just such a beautiful feeling. And it's just such, regardless of where we go, people feel it. So if it is a bigger part of me, a bigger dimensional or whatever it is, that's okay. If what I'm doing, or what we're doing and what we're doing is creating more connection and compassion for people, I don't care where it comes from, really.
That's beautiful. I mean, that's what it's all about. Who cares, in a sense?
Yeah.
You know, but if it's helping people.
Yeah.
But do you ever think to yourself, well, let me put it this way, where would you have been had you not taken this path?
Wow.
It's hard to know. You know, I've always said I've got quite a short concentration span. I get bored quite easily. And the wonderful thing with this 10 years that we've been doing this work with ZAR is it continues to evolve and expand and change. Same core message, but it grows. So I never get bored. I think if we hadn't been doing ZAR, I would have been still working in an area of working with people and helping change, but it would have been all sorts of different tools.
So do you think as you guys spiritually grow with the work, that the work is evolving?
Yes, because we do. As our energy grows, the more that we work with ZAR, the clearer and more expanded our own connection becomes. And so because of that, more information can come through. And as more comes through, we expand, we let go of our stories, we become less attached to our experiences, to the restricted identity of self, and so we expand. And then as we expand, more information can come through to be shared. And as it is, then we understand it even more deeply and we expand again. So it's never ending, really.
No. And where would you like to see the work going, or do you not have those kind of wants, in a sense? You're happy, whoever turns up is going to be the right people?
Yeah, that's been our experience. And I think in some ways we were very clear in the early days that we only wanted to connect and work with people who were ready to embrace themselves and their journey. We didn't want to spend time having to convince and prove. So we don't talk a lot about, you know, explaining what channeling is or how it works, because really we don't fully know. We're making best guesses, and as a human we kind of like to know that, but we don't want to spend our time justifying it. We work with people who feel something, they know that they're more, they know there's a part of them that's just nascent and waiting to be expressed, and they just want to know how to be it and do it.
But then you've both seen, in the time since you started this, a massive growth in channeling as well. And you've also seen people much more, well, it's just your work is normalised.
Yeah, which is interesting. And yet it's normalised, and yet still a step too far for a lot of people, even people who are very spiritual. I remember I actually found an email the other day. We were going to do some collaboration with some people, and they were looking for a venue, and they said, oh, we know this great ashram, we'll approach them so we can do the workshop there. And they emailed back and they said, oh, we shared what you did with the ashram. And they said they didn't want you. So, you know, even it's more normalised, and I think it is still a relatively small part of a larger communication with energy.
And is it sad that those in power like that, you know, bigger talk show hosts and other things who come from that space that you just described, have the power to shut it down like that? Do you think it will change? Would it matter if it didn't?
I don't know that it matters if it doesn't, because there's enough people awakening to a new sense of self and a new possibility for themselves and for the world, that not everybody is going to change, but there's enough people who are changing using all sorts of different approaches and different paths to create that quantum shift that the world is ready for and that humanity is ready for.
So if channeling got on a level like Christianity did, in a sense, could the world see some quicker change overnight, do you think?
Yeah.
Or does it, well, are we actually looking to see the world change? We're not, I suppose that's the wrong question. We're looking for an internal change within us, aren't we?
Yeah.
Which then has a ripple effect into our worlds and our relationships, and that is how the world changes. But for all the work, you know, that we do with people, it's an inside job. It's an inside-out job. It's us feeling happier with ourselves, more contented, more accepting, less judgmental of who we are, more loving to ourselves. And when we come from that space, we can't help but be different when we interact with others. And that creates the ripple.
How has the work changed you both individually?
I think that, well, certainly number one, accepting myself, realising that I am so much more than I thought I was. I think there's also been a part of I think the way that the work has changed me is a recognition that I have an extraordinarily large family. Like, it's huge. And I get birthday cards and Christmas cards from so many different people. It's just a knockout. And I think, you know, it shows me, and it has showed me, that wherever we go, regardless of the country or the religion, there is a general connection that everybody shares. And it is just to be loved and to share love. And I know we've heard that message so many times before, but I think, and it is one of the things that has really changed me, that sense of, if I love me, it doesn't have to be at the expense of someone else or something else. And I don't have to do savor or, you know, put myself out there, put myself last, because that means loving self. You know, it's totally changed me, you know, in that regard.
The biggest change, I think, for me is I'm more peaceful. I always had, as a child growing up and as an adult, young adult, my question always was, how do you know? How do I know? How do I know if this is the right decision? What if I did this instead? There was an uncertainty. But now I know, because I can feel my own energy and my own guidance. And if I'm weighing up options, I can feel the different energy of those and how they match with who I'm choosing to be and who I'm wanting to be and live as more. So there's much greater sense of peace and ease for me.
And what would you say is the most important message of this work?
To love yourself first, so that you can then share that love with others, so that they can live in peace and joy too.
To recognize you're so much more than what your thinking says you are.
So Kevin, what happens when Tsar's energy is joining us? Gary's consciousness steps to one side, and then when the energy comes in and I welcome them, they take a little bit of time, because whether they're talking to one person or to a group or to people watching online, they always feel the energy of the conversation and how they're going to begin. And when we have conversations with Tsar, whether it's in this format or through a recording or even in our books, there's always two aspects to it. There's what we call the frequency conversation, which is the energy transmission that runs alongside the conscious conversation, the words and the information that are shared. And what we know from our experience over the 10 years is that it's really the frequency conversation that is the powerful part of the shift. We have to shift as energy first before our physical can then follow that, because we are energy first and the physical human experience as life flows from that. So we know it works. We had a wonderful experience of a woman in New Zealand who was a carer for a young woman with a physical and mental disability. And she was living in with her when she was caring, and she would be playing our webinars and our meditations in the background just for herself while she was there doing things in the house. And over a period of short period of time, the young woman started to change. She became more peaceful, she was more settled, she was actually becoming more affectionate and able to engage with her carer. So much so that the young woman's mother said to her, "I don't know what you're doing, we've never seen her as peaceful as this, but whatever it is, keep doing it." So we have a lot of people who play our meditations and our webinars in the background with children while the kids are sleeping, because what the frequency does is bring us back to a larger remembering at that energetic level of who we are. Tsar is an energy of compassion. That's our essence as well. So for me, it's as though we plug back into the mainframe. We reconnect to a larger aspect of ourselves, and then we can move forward with that after the conversation finishes. So people feel it, and even if you don't, we know the energy shifts and changes us.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So welcome, Tsar.
Mm-hmm. Welcome, welcome, young ones. Yes, beautiful, peaceful. Perfect, yes. Oh, goodness, yes. So then, let us begin this conversation, shall we? For many of you that are and will be listening, there is so much about the energy of you that you have wished to understand. So much about the story of self, about the possibilities that you exist within. You have always been and found yourself aren't you all extraordinary, fascinating beings? Let us then begin our conversation with you about you and your desire and your love for self. And if you will allow us, young one, we shall ask questions with you along this journey. All of you as humans have desires. Desires that you wish to fulfill, desires that you have and wish to share with another. Many of these desires you feel so deeply within you, and they are generated, you feel, you think, from somewhere deep within you. When these desires come forward and they do not quite match up to what you wish, then you begin to doubt you. Oh, young ones, we wish to share something with you about these desires, about this sense of self that is creating them. Your desires are manufactured, shall we say, based upon who you think you are. They are created and designed by your thinking, by something you wish to fill, a hole that is a part of your life. The energy of these desires, young ones, we wish you to look upon. We wish you to question. It is not wrong that you have a desire. We just wish you to question what you think is. For as you begin to journey towards your desire, allow yourself to notice this you that is doing the journeying, to begin to question this sense of self that is wanting that desire, because the you that will eventually get there will be different to the you that began that journey. Allow your desire just to be a signpost along your path. It is not your end point. You head towards it. You may not get all the way there. And then you will alter and move towards the next expression of desire all the time. That when you do, you are setting yourself free from that old sense of self that created it. And in that way, young ones, you will allow yourself a lighter, more peaceful journey, for it is not then about the desire. It is about the you along this path that you are experiencing. Can you understand?
It is an interesting, desires are a very interesting way for us to get an insight to where we are in our acceptance and our love of self, our worthiness really. Because if we're seeking things from a place of not feeling complete and not feeling worthy, then those things actually will just generate more of a sense of unworthiness. They won't fulfill us even if when we get them. But if we seek things from a knowing of who we truly are, and we're seeking things that allow us to feel and express that even more, so that the world around us becomes a reflection of that light that we are, then not only are we more likely to generate those things because the truer energy that's doing the generating, but as we experience them, we'll actually feel that sense of contentment and peace and happiness. And in the journey to experience that in the physical, we'll have shifted and changed energetically, so then we're ready for the next part of our expansion. So it's desires, it's always so interesting because desires are a great way for us to reflect on ourselves. What is it? What are they saying about us? None of them are good or bad. It's about the self that's seeking. That's the fascinating piece in the journey.
And is that a bit different to the kind of standard law of attraction which is out there as well?
Yes, yeah, great distinction, because the law of attraction is more about attracting from outside to within. Whereas when we talk about desires, we talk about energy reflecting energy. And energy reflecting energy is that the energy that we are knowing ourselves to be, that we're accepting and growing, is being reflected into the world around us and becomes our experience. So it's a present creating a future rather than trying to draw a future to the present.
If Zara's got one more thing to say at that
Oh, we always have things to say, yeah. Oh, goodness, yes. Never short for conversation. We were just going to add to young Mary in that within the object of desire, there is a love that you have for the desire. We understand it is why you are heading towards it, is why you want it. It will fulfill something within you, so you think. We wish to share this with you. Feel, think, imagine the desire. Then recognize the love for you within you. Allow yourself just to feel this sense of self that will manifest this now. Because energy reflects energy. Allow yourself to recognize even the unobtainable desire from your thinking in this moment. Now. Because what that will do, you see, you're feeling a love of self, you're feeling an acceptance of you. That is going to lead you along this path to this desire. And then the more sense of self you feel as you are walking along this path, you'll go, oh, that seems a little bit too simple. I'm going this way now. There's another unobtainable desire. And all the way along this path, what you're doing is building love for self, for that is the purpose of them. Not denial of self, love of self. It is an acceptance of you along this journey.
A great example of that, Kevin, is 5 years ago, Gary and I moved from living in the city to the country, and we'd been looking for a property in nature and had been looking and couldn't find it. And for me, it was really clear the reason I wanted to move and be in nature was that when I'm in nature, I just love it. I love talking to the trees. I love having my hands in the dirt. It's a part of me being expressed. And I was very aware in the process of looking for the property where that desire was coming from and who I was in the creation of it. Because I knew that if I was waiting to feel the way I knew I was going to feel there, if I waited until we got the property to feel like that, it was never going to happen. But I couldn't pretend to feel like that in the lead up to it, because that's not a true energy, and you can't trick energy. Frequency matches frequency. You can't pretend to be happy. The energy knows that it's fake. So it was really fascinating, because what it allowed me to hone was the me that I knew I wanted to be now. Even living in the city on a little suburban block in a tiny garden, it wasn't about needing to be there. It was about feeling that sense of my expansiveness, and it was all about my connection and my communication with the world around me. So as I explored and played with that without any sense of urgency, what started to happen was the properties showed up. And the farm that we eventually bought had been on the market for about 2 years, and it hadn't shown up in any of our searches. Nobody seemed to know it was there. It was as though it was hiding, waiting for me and for us to be an energetic match for it.
That's incredible. So, because some say, don't they, fake it until you make it?
Yeah. That doesn't go down well from from a frequency perspective. You can't fake frequency.
No. Oh, goodness. Humans are so fascinating in what they attempt to pull over their own eyes, you see. How can you fake it till you make it? Because all the energy of you inside of you is going, oh goodness, that trick will never work. Oh, you're just silly, you're just this, you're just that. All your internal feeling, your internal dialogue is against your thinking. Not that your thinking's that clever anyway, but you see, it will begin to create what you don't want. And then when you create what you don't want, then you go, oh, see, I knew it. It's like doing your affirmations. Oh dear, there's another fake it till you make it trick. Oh.
That's interesting. So, okay, that was a great example you used there. But when you, so what were you feeling at that moment in those moments of wanting to manifest the farm?
Yeah.
Could you see yourself there already, or did you just know deep within that that was such the right choice to head towards that direction?
Yeah, it was the knowing. It was, and for me, I always think about that kind of knowing as a capital K knowing. It's not a thinking, it's that energy where I just knew that being in nature, being in somewhere that was lush, and we're now in a subtropical region, so it's green and it's lush and we grow bananas and mangoes, and living in a place like that would allow the me that I know I am to be even more freely expressed. It wasn't going to create me, it was going to allow me.
But did you see yourself at this farm?
I felt myself in nature.
So no attachments to the actual potential of a farm, it was more...
Yeah, but what's interesting is that I did have a checklist of what are the things that I wanted, so how much land. We came from an area where there was a lot of drought in Australia, and so one of the things that was on my list was water security. And what I thought water security meant was that we would have a river running through the property. Well, we got there when we looked at it and we spoke to the real estate guy, and I said, is there a river, is there a creek? And he said no. And I thought, oh, that's weird, because as soon as we all walked on the land, we felt it, we knew it was the right place. And I could feel that there was a creek there, but he kept saying, no, it's not there. Oh, well, that was okay. Anyway, afterwards it turned out there is. But more interestingly, we're in the middle of the bush in Australia, and yet we're on town water. So we have water security, even more water security than if we'd been on a river. So what I learned in that, Kevin, was that being clear about what it was I want without being attached to the how, what it's going to look like.
It was as simple as that.
It was as simple as that.
You are not caging yourself, you see. You are not being caged by your desire. You're allowing yourself to feel the energy of what it is you wish. As young Mary is saying, she began to create the specifics, shall we say. And then let that go and just feel the energy of what was desired. Feel the sense of self that would manifest what was desired. Because you see, as the universe comes forward to share with you, to show you energy reflecting energy, what it is you wish, the play begins. There has to be an awareness of you that will match up. So what we mean is this. If you are too focused upon this here, it doesn't always show up like that, you see. Allow yourself to be uncaged by what it is that you desire. And then be surprised at what appears before your eyes. For the energy of surprise, when you are surprised, in a good way, not scared by a clown or something, but when you are surprised, the feeling that wells up within you is quite perfect and quite beautiful. There is a recognition in that moment. Oh, look at what we have created. There is a knowing, there is a respect, there is a trust, there is a love. It is how you begin, you see.
But are some of the things that we manifest in this way, they're sometimes to teach us as well?
So it's a perfect question you have asked, young one. So, we understand that within the energy of humans, many feel, oh, we had to walk through fire to teach us. That it's painful. Yes. And so many humans go, well, I better just check that out again, just to see if I wasn't just joking. And so you walk through more flames, and then there's a bigger one over there, and we better check that one out too.
But then it's an even bigger lesson, and so people think, oh, that must be good.
Oh yes, I'm going to learn more from now an
That's
extraordinary fire that takes up half my country. Now I'll really learn. No, young ones. We understand that in the human form, that is the suggestion, and we are here to say you do not have to learn via walking through fire. Sure, feel the flames, recognize they are hot, and now, time to change. What we mean is this. When an experience comes forward that you are a part of, that you do not wish, if you associate, become the experience, then that, you see, that way you are walking through many fires, because you are allowing that experience to determine your identity and what you think is. You are associating so much strongly with what has just happened. If an experience is just energy in motion, and from this current thinking of you, whether you are aware of it or not, it has manifested something. You're a part of something. And it is not that you have completely manifested it, but you were just there. And so within this experience, you look at it and you decide, is that who I know myself to be? And we would suggest to all of you, you say, oh no, Zar, that is not us. Then from there, perfect. Circle of 3, awareness, acceptance, and then compassion, young ones. That will allow you to disassociate yourself from becoming the experience. And so, okay, that happened, now what? From the now what, you can go, okay, need to change myself, need to alter a few little things here. And you will manifest a different experience. You can then learn from your experience and not become it. Can you understand, young one?
Yes, absolutely. And then when you look at, someone that's maybe struggling to manifest the things in their lives, I would say they're not coming from the principles that you've described there, really.
Yeah. And there's, for me, there's 2 ways that we learn as humans. One is through experience. And as we were just talking about, often humans think that the experience has to be the challenge. We learn through adversity and challenge, and that's how we grow. What we show is that, in fact, we can learn through joy. The experience doesn't have to be painful. It only gets to that when we've ignored our knowing and the energetic nudges that we've been getting along the way, and we end up with the Mack truck. So we can learn through joyful experience. And the other way that we learn, which is even easier, is through awareness. Being aware of an experience ahead of time, being aware of how it's a match for us or not, and then choosing who we want to be in that experience, whether we even want to have the experience. So we start to navigate through life differently using our awareness and our choice to experience a lighter journey to create our experiences and the things we're wanting to manifest.
Just very briefly then, do we choose then to have certain situations to experience before we incarnate here? Or is it just random?
Yeah. Oh, young one. There is no purpose for any human to choose suffering. Suffering does not bring change. We understand that humans are born into many situations in which pain is their first experience, in which pain is prolonged through so much of their early existence. We are here to say to you, you did not choose it. It is not a part of your purpose to experience it. If you are an energy that has come forward and in this moment you are experiencing pain, it is because of human separation, the separation of your family, the separation of your community, of your country, of your world. It is not you. If you can feel within this pain that you are something more, then yes, you are. This extraordinary energy of you is not here to suffer. It serves no purpose, young ones. You did not choose it when you were there with creation. Because the only way that creation grows is by you allowing you. You cannot, you see, the universe does not expand by you denying you. It just sits there. It just waits. It can't do anything because denial within the energy of creation, you see, it's like a flat battery. Oh, goodness. Won't power up anything, you see. Oh, it's useless.
And so when DZAR talks about allowing, when we allow ourselves, what we do, the practical humanness of that, is that we're recognising that light or that joy or that peace or that part of us that isn't the suffering. And we make choices to grow and experience that as much as we can, even if it's moment by moment, just knowing that that's there, we grow it. That's how we allow, and that's how we move out of those experiences that we don't want.
And it's all part of the manifestation conversation in a sense. Yeah. But when we seem to be born into situations where it's abusive or it's you know, there's a lot of pain, and it seems to be, well, did we choose that? So you're saying we don't choose that before we come down it, but it's just a byproduct of other people's choice.
Yes.
Yes.
But is there karmic lessons in that?
Oh, goodness, here we go with karma. So let's play with karma briefly. Oh, goodness. We understand it is also a part of your world's awareness. Oh, goodness. And so imagine the energy of karma. You do this, and therefore you have to pay for it in the next one. Cause and effect. The pimple, the world would be the size of a pimple if that was the case. It would be so tiny it would implode and explode and there'd be nothing left. Because nothing would ever happen. Humans are continuing to do things that there should be so much karma it would take billions of years to clear. And that is not how it works. The filing system would be horrendous, young one. We don't have that. Well, we have the space, but why go through filing? Oh, yes, he did this to that person, so that person in that life better get a little bit of retribution, or maybe he just needs to pay for it, or whatever it is. No.
So why is that other people's truths then?
So, because that's your thinking. That's what you think is. So here, let us give you this awareness. And so you do something to another. Every human has. You've all sliced and diced. You've all hurt and abused another. And yet all those who are within this awareness and listening now have an awareness of self that is different to the one that did that in their past. If karma was so, then you would be still having to pay for that. The best way, young ones, that you can allow you is to allow you. You are not here to pay for what you have done. You are here to become. You are here to become creation's reflection in this physical form that you are. You are here to be that extraordinary energy of beauty. And here is what will happen, you see. If you allow you, if you love this energy of you, you will not hurt another again. There is nothing you have to pay for, because in the beauty of you becoming, that love of you, when you meet that person, you remove their head and put it in a basket. They will feel something beautiful within you, and they will come towards you. And oh, how do you do that? Oh, well, come and sit down. Oh, you look better with this head. And then you have a little cup of tea and a little biscuit, and then you have a cuddle. And then they go off on their day, and within them you have just shared your light. The light begins within them, and oh, there's a completely different journey that this being is on. Energy reflecting energy. You are not the pain of your past. You are not karma. Karma is not true.
And it's interesting because the energy, the essence that we are, we've talked about the bridge, that energetic aspect of us isn't affected, no matter what happens in the physical life. The essence that we are is always whole. Yes. It's always complete. It continues to grow and expand, but it's perfect. And so it's actually not affected, no matter what horrendous things happen in the physical, and there are horrendous things, we do know that, but the energy of you isn't affected. So it comes back in the next life with the intention of experiencing more of its light.
So when channelers bring through different information about that karma is a potential, that's at the level that they're at, where it's their reality that is true.
Yeah, it's a match for them.
It's a match for them.
Yeah, and interesting, from a human perspective, then karma comes through in different religions, as does sin, as a way to control people and for people to be okay to accept where they are.
So in the reality of where ZAR's coming from, in ZAR's expression of wherever that expression is coming from, which is
all
right
that
now,
is.
Here right now,
from source,
then maybe as you come from a higher vibration of love, or when you're just loving, there's more love for yourself, which you can only spill out to others.
Yeah.
Maybe you wouldn't need to manifest such diabolical situations or have to come from such pain.
Yes.
That actually the way you treat yourself is a direct proportion of how you treat others. So if you're going to abuse yourself, you may be abusing others.
Yes. Yeah.
If you're loving others, you're loving yourself, you're loving others.
Yeah. When you love yourself and feel contented in yourself and good about yourself, the days when you feel great, you share that with others. You share that with the people in the shops or in the traffic. When you're having a lousy day and you're feeling yuck, then you share that with others. So the more we grow our love of self and we nurture that, then that is what flows out into the world around us. And we open the opportunity for others to start to do that and be that for themselves. That's the ripple effect for the change that happens.
We are here, you see, perfect young Mary. We are here to expand your listening with your whole body, not your thinking. It's not you thinking, you see. It's you listening to your knowing. For when you allow yourself this, you see, you begin to connect, you begin to love. You begin to step out of this cage that you have been in, and you open the door. Oh, it's fascinating out there. You allow yourself an expression of freedom, of curiosity, of possibility. You're no longer behind this cage that has trapped you. You're now opening the door to freedom. And to allow yourself an expression of freedom comes forward a love of self. A worthiness, you see, a worthiness. Through that energy of worthiness, not deserving. No, you don't deserve anything, young ones. Oh, you'll get mail for that. But you don't deserve anything, and you are worthy of everything. Energy reflecting energy, this energy of you. If you become aware of what is showing up in your reality, oh, is that me? Oh no, don't really fit there with the head in the lion's mouth. I'm going to move over here to patting the kitty cat. Oh, that's a lot easier. I'll throw the lion a steak and then they can be my friend. You see, you change reality, you change possibility because of what you allow for yourself. You are not here to continually learn lessons. You are here to become this extraordinary, incredible energy of you. For that is what is, you see. Creation's reflection, creation's extraordinary knowing and energy manifesting in a physical form that will share itself with its world and with its universe. That's your purpose. Off you go, perfect, yes.
Okay. Okay. I think that's the main message to come on to this part of the documentary.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, look, Zar, I just want to thank you so much for coming back through and for sharing that important part of the documentary as well. Thank you. Thank you both, actually, because you're co-creating this.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Yeah.
We welcome you also for showing up, young one. Perfect, yes. Farewell.
Thank you, sir.
Farewell, young ones, farewell.